Hi, Liz. How are you today?
Good. How are you?
I'm good. My name's Mallory, so we're just going to get started, and I'm just going to be asking you some questions as we go along, just to figure out um, what's what the situation is, what's going on, and what will be helpful for you. So, if you have any questions along the way, you let me know. So, tell me about yourself.
All right. So I am married. I have three children, and they are kind of young. I have a boy who is 8 years old, a daughter who is 5, and then I also have another daughter who is 3. So kind of close in proximity.
Yeah.
And I work. I'm a teacher.
Okay.
And my husband, we've been married for 10 years now, and he actually recently had a stroke about 6 months ago, and it's been kind of a hard adjustment to switch from what I knew him as before the stroke and now post. So that's kind of the reason why I'm here today is because I never imagined in my life that I would be dealing with a loved one, especially my husband, who is young, in my opinion. I mean, we're barely in our 30s. So for him to get a stroke at that age, and it was so unexpected, I just didn't really know how to cope. And even now, 6 months later, it's obviously still affecting us both as a couple individually and our family. So just kind of hoping to, I don't know, find some answers and help cope with it better, I guess.
Okay. So you mentioned that this obviously is something that has a big effect. Can you tell me more about the feelings and emotions for today? What's going on?
So yeah, I definitely feel most of the time, I'm trying to find the word of the feeling. It's kind of like, I can't explain it. It's kind of unpredictable, to be honest, my feelings. Anxiety is one. Overwhelmed, for sure. Frustration. Even, I would say guilt sometimes because I'm human. I get that. And, I get frustrated and overwhelmed, trying to cope with my husband's change and things like that. But at the same time, I feel guilty because I feel like, am I doing everything right that a wife should be doing to support her husband? Am I doing everything right to support my kids and sort of support them in their transition as well with seeing their dad sort of be different and things like that. But guilty in the sense that am I doing the right thing, or am I, by getting frustrated and overwhelmed, is that making my husband feel like a burden? Because I don't know, I don't want him to feel that way, but sometimes it's hard to control those feelings, and sometimes I lose patience.
That's fair.
And I don't have the answers to anything. I'm not an expert. So on top of working and having 3 young children and trying to, come home and cook dinner, and also keep up with his doctor appointments and therapy and things like that, it's definitely a lot.
Yeah, it's a big adjustment. It's a lot to juggle. So you mentioned a lot of these feelings of guilt and wanting to know that you're doing well. What else might you say is most important to you in this situation?
I guess what's most important would be just being there for my husband and being there for my kids, and I guess just being a supporting figure to them, but also I want to be able to lean on someone, lean on my husband as much as he leans on me, without feeling guilty about it, because I know that he has a lot going on. I don't know, for example, asking, how much do I ask for his help with the kids, because is it fair to him? Is it too much for him, or is it just fair because he's their father too, and he should be involved. But yeah, I guess just finding the support within each other and kind of finding a way to cope with this entire situation better and not letting our emotions and frustrations get the best of us, and that we remember that, I guess, our marriage and our family is the most important thing. I mean, I'm just grateful that he's still with us, and that's all, I guess. I need to sometimes remember and focus on that versus the fact that he could have been gone.
Right. So along those lines, you talked about support and coping and what you're doing right now. So what has worked the best for you? What's something you've noticed with this is a huge change and a transition, as you said, and sounds like you're juggling a lot, and that's very impressive in of itself that you come into therapy today and you're willing to talk through it and really just refine how you're dealing with this really difficult thing. So my question is, what have you done in the past 6 months, you said, that has worked best for you coping wise?
I guess my family's always been spiritual, so I guess my first line of coping or defense was to keep praying and sort of focusing on the good things that we have, not being so negative, and the fact that again, like I mentioned, I'm just grateful that he's with us still. Also, my family is close to us too, so having the support of my parents there is good because they've been able to help us with the load of the kids sometimes getting picked up from school or dropping them off at school, or even babysitting them while I go to doctor appointments with my husband, things like that. So definitely family has been a huge support. And then I have some coworkers that are also very supportive and sweet and are always asking me how are you doing, how's he doing, and things like that kind of just make my day feel a little bit better. And then friends as well that I have that I'm close with, they're also very supportive. So I guess that's what kind of has been getting me through so far. But even with all that, sometimes it's still hard when I'm the one who gets to go home at the end of the day and really deal with the situation and wake up to it and go to sleep with it, you know?
Exactly. So that's really great, though. It seems like you have a great support system with your faith, your family and friends, and all of those. The coworkers, it's awesome that they provide childcare and that emotional support, but it's still fair to be in tune with what you need and noticing at the end of the day it's still really difficult. So talking about these things and the reasons why you came in today, what are some just initial short-term goals that you have for yourself that you would like to see some progress in?
I guess just my thinking, I guess, maybe being a little bit easier on myself. Not focusing too much on what is expected, I guess, of me, or not having too many expectations either on this situation that we have, and just kind of being able to cope with what I have now and making it work for me as much as making it work for my husband and my kids.
Right.
But just being able to help mainly my husband communicate as well, and me be able to better communicate with him as well.
Right.
I know that he goes to speech therapy actually, because he was with his stroke, he was diagnosed with mild aphasia, Broca's, so he has some trouble sometimes word finding and things like that. He gets stuck on words and he won't know what to say. But we've been able to kind of cope with it better because of speech therapy. So there's some ways that we communicate better, but still, it's still hard. So I think that's another
Okay.
goal that I would like to work on is maybe communicating better from my end
Right.
to him.
Right. So it sounds like you have these goals set for yourself, and you've already seen some solutions in progress. So you're wanting to focus in on your resilience with those and just moving forward. So that's really good, and that's a fair thing to be thinking. So I have taken all these notes on what you've said with what's going on right now, your thoughts and feelings, and then the supports and what's working. So I want to just take a minute to let's just pause where we are and just think like fast forward. There is this future place, this area where these problems and these goals you've set for yourself are fulfilled, and everything with this new life and this new transition, you've achieved it, and you don't have these anxieties, these guilty feelings anymore. So, in this future place, when your goals have been met and these things aren't the forefront of your mind as much, what do you know? What do you notice that's different about yourself, about the people around you, about your husband's life? What is the most? What do you think the most tangible things would be?
If things were to be better, I think that I would feel less guilty for sure, less frustrated. I think that I would probably be a lot happier, and things would just feel like they were somewhat in the past before my husband had his stroke. I would like, I think, in the future to just be able to sort of like start new and just live life with my new husband now. And my kids get to know a new side of their dad. And I think that would be probably the best for all of us because it would relieve a lot of stress, it would relieve a lot of expectations, it would help us just to communicate better and not get as frustrated. And I think also like my family and our friends and even like my husband and his friends would also see a great change in us, and they wouldn't see us as stressed and overwhelmed. So that's something that I would like to see in the future.
Okay, very good. So I have this scale right here. So if this is that future place, the best it can be, and down here is maybe worst scenario. Where on this scale do you think, along the goals that you've told me and your expectations for what your future place could be if all these things were achieved, can you mark on this scale for me? Where do you think you are at this moment?
Okay. So this is the worst, and then this would probably be the best outcome.
Yeah.
Oops, that was my
phone.
I guess I would say I'm probably somewhere here.
Okay, and then can you just reiterate for me what are the thoughts and feelings that you have today in this position that you're in? What emotions kind of characterize this point of the scale?
I guess I'm overwhelmed. That would be one. Guilty. I feel guilt sometimes. Stress of trying to balance everything with the kids, my husband, doctor appointments, all that. And just, I guess, like, not hopeless, but I want, like, more. I just, like, the hope to, the expectation to, like, be better and get in a better place.
Good. So you're desiring that progress. You want that. So with that progress in mind, with that future place, where on this continuum do you think you'd fall, let's say, another 6 months from now? If you were to come in here again and you've worked on your goals and you've really seen your kids are acclimating and getting along with this new version of your husband that you've said, which I think is a very healthy perspective to have, that things are going to change and it's just a matter of adapting to it. where do you think on the scale you might be?
In the future with that?
Yes.
Probably here.
Okay.
Just because this is something that's I would feel would be realistic.
Right.
I mean, obviously here is like all the way at the top. The best would be like if my husband had never had the stroke, that would be ideal. But I know that realistically, I'd probably be here.
How do you feel about this gap here? Is that discouraging to you? Is that still hopeful for you? What do you think?
I would again. I think I would just say it's realistic because after speaking to doctors and I mean, he's diagnosed with aphasia, which I know that there's no cure for it. So I'm just being realistic in the sense that I know that we're gonna have to like adapt, like you said, and just cope with what we have better. And I think that being here would still be like fine. We would still be happy. It would just be more of a realistic standpoint to like know that like my husband's not gonna ever be the same again, but I can still love this new side of him. I can he's still there. It's just he's having trouble communicating, but he's still the same person. So I'm obviously still gonna have a little bit of frustration, I think, because I'm human. But I think that that's a very realistic point to start at for now. And then another word that I forgot to mention here was fear.
Okay.
Fear of not progressing. A lot of people, when they found out, and it could be like strangers or acquaintances, people that I'm not even that close to, like when they found out that my husband had a stroke, even some of the, not the doctors, but like I would just hear like nurses and like people in the halls like saying like, oh, you know, like usually people with strokes, they don't like whatever they gain after the 6 months post-stroke, like that's the best they're gonna get like ever. And like we're 6 months and like it's almost like scary. Like I shouldn't believe like what people say because I don't know. I mean, he may or may not get better, but I don't typically agree with the fact that 6 months post-stroke is the best they'll ever be.
Right.
I hope not. So that's why I'm like fearful because of the things other people say and things I read online of how some people will not gain any skills back or anything like that. But I hope not.
And that hope and resilience, what we were talking about back here with your short-term goals, is that's what you're doing now, and keeping up with that is really what you're hoping for. And I think that's a good perspective to have. So going back up here to this higher mark, what do you think are thoughts and emotions that you are striving for in that future place? How would you feel as opposed to the overwhelm, guilt, and that fear? Say if the situation is improved, not quite to this degree, but this continuum, I am focusing on what your emotions are with the situation. Yeah, with what you're dealing with. So what do you think are thoughts and feelings that would characterize being on this level?
If I were on that level, which I'm striving for, I would probably be less stressed. I would be comfortable. Maybe happier. And I also think that like my family would be happier and not seeing me so stressed or overwhelmed would also just help my relationship with my husband and not being in the place of guilt no more. So if there's a word opposite of guilt, I don't know, I can't think of it right now, but
maybe just being at peace with the situation
and
not having those expectations on yourself, what you were saying before. So I'll write that down as well. Okay. So from here to here, you talked about some short-term goals that you have. How are you going to move from here to here? How do you get out of this place? Maybe thinking more about short-term goals that you would set for yourself. What are some things with your thoughts and feelings that would change from here to here?
Hmm. Um, some things that I can do. I guess I'd probably maybe being more involved with my husband's therapy, maybe making time for that, so that I can communicate better with him. Usually, when I go to speech therapy with him, he's seen sometimes individualistically, so alone, but sometimes I can't, I don't go. Sometimes my dad or my mom takes him, but I think that I can try and make time for that so that it can help us with our communication. Also, maybe even finding a way so that the kids can be involved. Maybe not going to therapy, but maybe implementing the therapy or communication strategies at home so that they don't lose like sense of their relationship with their father. And I don't know, I guess I can't think of anything else. I guess just keep, well, yeah, praying and continue going to church as a family, spending quality family time. Would help with like my fear, just having faith. And I guess I'm hoping that with this therapy I can kind of resolve my own feelings of guilt.
Right. And kind of relieve yourself from those expectations. And it sounds like these two things, and over time just being involved in your family and your faith is really important to you. So I think that continuing to prioritize those and develop that resilience that we've been talking about is really, really a positive thing. So, do you have any questions for me at the end of our time is drawing to a close, and we've talked about the short-term goals. If you were to come back to another therapy session in a couple of weeks or months, what are things that you would hope to report improving on? So, if you were to go and really prioritize involving your kids and having that family unity and in your faith, and moving upwards in this scale, what would be maybe some additional feelings associated with that, coming into therapy again, or whether or not you come, just thinking practically moving forward?
Okay, sure. I guess I'm trying to find the word for the feeling, but sort of that feeling of knowing that I'm not just sitting and doing nothing. So being proactive, is that the word?
Yeah, that's what I was thinking too.
Being proactive about the issue, and at least I care enough to do something about it, because if I didn't care, I wouldn't even come.
Exactly.
So being proactive about it, and just going home and like I said, like thinking when I'm in those like negative moods or sad or frustrated, maybe I can take a step back and write down or or just even verbally like share with someone like what I'm grateful for, or like write it down, like I said, in a journal. Maybe that's something that I'll incorporate. I've also I have a friend who is really into like meditating and things like that. So she told me that maybe I should try meditating or doing some like yoga, like doing some things to self-care for myself, because I am like so busy all the time and always going and caring after somebody else, like my kids, my family, my husband. But what about me? Maybe I need to start looking into myself and taking care of myself as well, because how am I going to take care of others if I can't even take care of myself?
Exactly.
So yeah, so maybe, I don't know, maybe I'll look into meditation, do some yoga or something. I used to be really proactive in the gym back before I had kids. And that really helped me throughout like college and stuff, and just stress relief and things like that. So maybe I'll look into going to the gym or things like that. So more self-care was something that I think I can make a goal out of. And just staying on top of my faith, I guess, and attending to my husband and my kids. Obviously, they're my priority too.
Yeah.
But I do need to find some time to fit into my own self.
Yeah, exactly. I think that these things you said about self-care and writing and just sharing how you're feeling as well, I think these are really good steps to keep moving up, and I think those are really good goals that you've identified and set for yourself. So just in closing out our time, do you have any further questions or anything else you'd like me to know?
No, I think I got everything that I wanted to get out of the session today. So thank you. I appreciate you listening.
Yep. Anytime. And I'll see you next time.
Thank you.